Hey guys, Omni here. So last night I went and saw Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. I know I'm a little bit late to this, so I'm going to try not to spend too much time talking about this movie. But you guys know from the trailer reactions that I did for this, for the trailers that came out, both the international and the US release for it, the movie did not look phenomenal. It definitely had a low budget feel to it. The CGI looked terrible, but I thought it's at least trying to look like the games. It's showing us places and people from the games that we recognize. It seems like it's following the storylines for Resident Evil 1 and 2 for some reason happening at the same time, which still was a question that I had at the end of the movie as to why they decided to have both those storylines happening parallel. If there's like a greater machination for that, because I know the director writer, who is both the same person, Johannes Roberts, has ideas on where things are going. So it almost kind of makes me wonder if the reason that this happened together simultaneously is so that they could get faster to an idea that he wanted to do down the road. I don't know. Watching the movie again, it doesn't click to me as to why these had to happen at the same time, other for them to have as many characters and names and places that you recognize from the two most iconic games in the series happening all at the same time. You know, we've got Chris Redfield, Claire Redfield, Leon S. Kennedy in here. We got Wesker, we got Jill, we got all the big name players in this film all at the same time. While we have a lot of the names, and some of them might look close to the characters, they are by no means the characters from the games themselves. Albert Wesker is a dude bro, like through and through. I think the closest as far as character actor from the games they got was probably Robbie Amell's Chris Redfield. That's probably the closest. Claire, nothing like she is in the games. Leon, they just make the butt of every joke. If you like Leon at all, if he's your favorite character, the entire movie shits on Leon. No joke. No joke. Like, he is the butt of every joke, and the dialogue in this movie is not good. Sometimes I don't know if there's actually script there or they're just improvising or just rambling, because a lot of times you'll see people just kind of drag out a scene and just repeating the same lines over and over and over again, or just repeating words like to fill air. Like, and for a movie that has people like Donal Logue in here, Neal McDonough, and especially a lead like Kaya Scodelario, it's like they just were not directed at all. Especially her, because she's a phenomenal actress. And you know, Claire in the games has this warmth to her. She can handle herself in any situation, easy. Nothing really gets to her. But she's got like this warmth to her that carries through, and that is all sucked out of this character, all completely, to replace her with this girl boss character who literally, and you guys know me, like, I do not harp on this sort of thing at all. Usually it's never been something I complain about, but here it's just so blatantly apparent because everybody around her is incompetent and has to be rescued by her, saved by her, corrected by her. It's ridiculous. Like, it's not even like, nobody in this movie, none of the characters are competent in any stretch of the imagination. Like, Chief Irons is a joke. Leon, it barely even knows how to breathe. Like, if he was left in a room by himself and just forgot to keep breathing, he might die. Like, I'm yeah, very well, he might just die. Jill, her whole character kind of just centers around being part of this team and her horniness for Wesker. It's just like, what is going on with this? The script in this movie and the way things kind of play out is almost as if somebody was just like took a bunch of iconography, characters, locations from the games, because it's not just Resident Evil 1 and 2 that this thing kind of references to. It throws references out from all across the franchise. So it's almost like somebody took a bunch of Resident Evil stuff, shoved it into a box, shook it around, dumped it onto the table, and just kind of like hodgepodged it together into what seemingly looked like a jigsaw puzzle to whoever was overseeing this thing. And none of it really connects because these barely are the characters from the games. And I gotta say, like, and this is like pains me a little bit to say, and I didn't expect this, I gotta say I prefer the Paul W.S. Anderson films. Like, I still think the best Resident Evil film is that first film with Alice and Mila Jovovich and all that stuff. Like, and I think even the characters as they appear, the characters from the games that appear in those films, while the situations they appear in are not accurate or from the games whatsoever, I think the characters in those are way more faithful to the games than this even is. It is ridiculous because there are some shots in here and some threads that are straight from the game. And like I said, it looks like it at times, but when you start to like pull back the threads on any one of these characters, I think the most untarnished from this is Robbie Amell's Chris Redfield. I think he's the most that feels like the character from the games a little bit, but then again, he's completely incompetent in this as well. One positive in here is Neal McDonough is great as always, and maybe all this would have worked out and been more fun to watch had it not taken itself so seriously. Like when I was going into this, I was like, okay, it looks bad, but at least maybe it'll be a fun watch. But this film takes itself so seriously, despite the way they handle a lot of these characters, which seems like complete jokes and mockeries of the versions of them from the games. Like, I thought I'd at least have fun with it, and maybe I would have had fun with it too, but it's so self-serious every step of the way that it's hard to have fun with it, or at least laugh along with it, because it's not laughing at itself, you know? So it's like, it's this weird tonal inconsistency between what is actually happening and the way the movie is acting. And it's not intentional, because the director in many interviews says like that we're going for that dark and gritty, serious survival horror feel like they have in the games, and that does not translate at all. There are a few sequences in here that are kind of cool, like some moments when Chris is getting overwhelmed in the mansion, where the only thing lighting the scene is the flares from his muzzle flash. So you're seeing him in desperation as he's trying to fight off this horde, and it's just flicker, 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 and you just get these quick shots of the swarm coming at him. There's some cool things in here, few and far between, like that really kind of make some of this thing stand out. But aside from that, there's not a lot of action in the movie. This normally isn't something that I call out in these sort of things, but it's so blatantly obvious in this. There is not a male character in this movie that can stand on their own. Like, every one of them had to be saved by a female counterpart of some kind. And it's so funny every time it happens, because they just like call it out. Like, it's just weird. Like, it's just everyone. Every dude in this is a bumbling idiot. And the movie even straight up calls them idiots throughout it. Like, it's just weird. Like, I don't know why they made any of these decisions. And they definitely sequel baited the crap out of this at the end. With the way that the film comes to a close, and there's even like a little mid-credits teaser. And again, what I just said happens even in that post-credits scene. So it's just like weird, man. I don't even know if you're not a fan of the games, I don't know how you're going to feel about a lot of this, because I feel like a lot of it's going to be confusing, the way things connect together. I feel like if you didn't have that information from the games to fill in some of the gaps, some of it's just going to kind of go over your head a little bit. And some things might just straight up confuse you. Then again, some of the knowledge, if you didn't have it from the games, you'd be like, oh, okay, whatever. You wouldn't think twice about why certain things are here, because there are some things in here that the movie even itself contradicts at times. There's several plot inconsistencies and plot holes throughout this movie that make no sense. There's some things that are in here literally even creature-wise. Some creatures in here, characters that just show up that make no sense to the plot whatsoever and contradict itself at one point or another. Yeah, there's a lot of weird decisions that were made in this to kind of make something out of two very distinct storylines that probably should have stayed separate. And I don't know why they didn't do it. Like I said, I don't know why they combined these storylines. Like, I think it might have flowed a little bit better if they just committed to one or the other. Just the Raccoon City incident, just Claire and Leon and their struggle, or just the mansion. But them trying to do both just makes me feel like they just wanted to rush through, like establish these events in this world, but rush to a point so that they could progress to another film that they want to do. That's like a setup from where they left off. So I don't know. I don't know what the plan is for this, because they are hoping for a sequel, and I just do not know if they're going to get it. Like, at this point, like, even though the Paul W.S. Anderson series was terrible, I had fun watching those movies. They never took themselves seriously at all. The most you could argue is maybe the first one took itself the most serious, but again, that one was at least a decent movie. While it wasn't accurate to the games whatsoever, or even used any characters from the games at all, it felt like Resident Evil, at least. It felt like Resident Evil. Maybe didn't look like it. I mean, there's zombies were in it. There was way more zombies in that than there is in this. The zombies in this are barely in the movie. The creatures alone are barely in the movie. It's mostly just the characters themselves running around in different corridors and rooms, just yelling at each other and just trying to figure things out. That's most of the movie. There's not even enough action in this to kind of keep you entertained and satiated throughout most of it. So yeah, it was not a good movie. At the end of the day, I wouldn't say it was god awful. There are some redeeming things in it. So I would probably get this like about a 5 out of 10, like middle of the road. Like I don't hate it as much as I was complaining about a lot of things in the movie. I don't hate it, but it made me feel nothing. So it's like if it had made me feel at least some entertainment value out of it, some joy out of it or anything like that, maybe it would have ticked a little bit on the higher end. But I'm going to get it right in the middle of the road, leaning towards a 4, but I'm going to land this on like a 5 out of 10. Leaning 4, give or take. Let it sit in my mind a little bit longer, because I still have just been pondering some of the decisions this movie made. But guys, have you seen it? If you have, let me know what you thought. Sound off the comments. Let me know your thoughts down below. We'll carry on the conversation after the video. At this point, I feel like I should just go back and play the games to rinse this thing out of my mind, to just kind of rinse that taste out of my mouth, but we'll see. Feel free to join our Discord. Links to that on my socials down below. Before we go, I want to shout out our channel legends: Mandy Shara, Jason Coleman, Philly Vane, Yori Korskov, Margaret Grace, Mary Bradley, Jeffrey Hale, and various abominations. Thank you guys so much for your continued support, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, everybody.